My ex thought I was nothing, then begged when my company went viral. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. You're pathetic, she spat, her voice slicing through the tiny apartment we shared. I can't waste my life on someone who's going nowhere. You'll never be anything, and I refuse to be dragged down with you. I remember standing there, frozen, holding the cheap takeout I'd brought home after another 12-hour day. My clothes smelled like grease and exhaustion, my hands trembling as I tried to make sense of the words. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice breaking. I'm working. I'm saving. I have plans. Plans. She laughed, sharp and cruel. You're almost 30 and still a joke. A dreamer. I need someone who can actually provide, not some loser chasing fantasies. We're done. She grabbed her suitcase, the one she must have packed earlier, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I sank onto the couch, staring at the flickering light bulb overhead, feeling like my chest had been hollowed out. Her words echoed in my skull for weeks. Pathetic. Nowhere. A joke. Everywhere I went, I carried her voice with me. At work, when my boss barked orders. On the subway, surrounded by strangers who looked more successful, more put together. Even in my sleep, her laughter haunted me. I tried reaching out once, just to understand, but she blocked me. A mutual friend told me she was already with someone else, a real man with a real job, as she apparently put it. That night, something inside me snapped. If she wanted me to be nothing, I would make sure I became everything she thought I couldn't. I didn't know how, and I had no roadmap, but I knew one thing. I would not die the failure she believed me to be. I poured every ounce of pain into a single idea, an app I'd been sketching out in notebooks, one everyone laughed at when I mentioned it. I decided to build it, even if it killed me. And in that moment, I made a silent promise. One day, she would see my name again, and she would choke on the regret. Starting was easy. Surviving wasn't. I quit my dead-end job the following month, against everyone's advice. My coworkers called me insane. My parents begged me to be realistic. Even my so-called friends laughed when I told them I was building a company out of my crumbling apartment. An app? One of them sneered over beers. Dude, you can't even pay your rent on time. They weren't wrong. The savings I had evaporated within months. I ate ramen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My electricity was cut off twice. I coded in the dark, my laptop battery draining faster than I could charge it at coffee shops. Every rejection email from investors felt like a punch to the ribs. Not scalable. Too ambitious. Doesn't solve a real problem. Each one sounded eerily like her voice, whispering in my ear, pathetic, going nowhere. I started doubting myself. There were nights when I'd stare at the screen, my vision blurry from exhaustion, asking, what's the point? Maybe she was right. Maybe I was nothing. But then, on one of those nights, I stumbled across an old photo of us. Her smirking at the camera, me holding her hand, looking like the happiest fool alive. I tore the photo in half and taped my side above my desk. I stared at it like a challenge. No, I muttered to myself. I'm not done. The loneliness was crushing. Friends stopped calling. Family stopped visiting. My ex's new relationship became a spectacle on social media. Vacations, fancy dinners, new clothes. Every post was a dagger. She looked like she had won, and I was just the failure she always claimed. But that humiliation fueled me. Every cruel word, every smug post, every empty bank account drove me to work harder. I coded until my fingers cramped, pitched until my voice cracked, tested until my eyes burned. I hit rock bottom. But at the bottom, there's only one way left to go. And the first sign of change came in the form of a single email, one that didn't say no. It said, let's talk. The email was short, barely 2 lines. Your idea is interesting. Let's set up a call. I must have read it 20 times, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. After months of rejection, one person finally didn't dismiss me. My hands shook as I typed back, trying to sound confident instead of desperate. The call was scheduled for that Friday. I spent the next 3 days rehearsing my pitch in front of the cracked bathroom mirror, tweaking my slides until the sun came up. When the day came, I sat hunched over my laptop at the corner of a noisy cafe, headphones in, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself speak. His name was Daniel. He wasn't a big-time investor, just a mid-level angel who liked risky ideas. He listened quietly while I poured everything out, the the vision, the tech, the market. When I finished, there was silence. Then he said, "You're raw? But there's something here." He didn't offer me millions. He didn't even offer thousands. Instead, he gave me something more valuable: advice, contacts, and a chance. "I'll introduce you to someone who can help polish this," he said. "But don't waste my time. If you want this, prove it." When the call ended, I sat back, stunned. It wasn't a yes, not yet. But it wasn't a no. It was the first spark, and sparks can start wildfires. Fueled by that sliver of hope, I doubled down. I picked up freelance gigs to keep myself fed, working nights on my company. I crashed investor meetups, pitched anyone who would listen, burned through rejection after rejection. But with every no, I thought of Daniel's words, "Something here." Meanwhile, my ex's life played out like a highlight reel online. Engagement photos, luxury vacations, captions dripping with superiority. Each post was a reminder of what she thought I'd never become. One night, exhausted and bitter, I muttered at her glowing face on my phone screen, "You'll see me again. Not like this, but you will." And fate, in its strange way, delivered sooner than I expected. Because a week later, one of my prototypes leaked online, and it went viral. I hadn't meant for it to happen. The prototype was rough, half-broken features, clunky interface, nothing polished. I only uploaded it to a small online forum for feedback, hoping a handful of developers might give me notes. Instead, within 24 hours, thousands of people had downloaded it. By the second day, bloggers were writing about it. The app you didn't know you needed. By the third, it hit trending on Twitter. Screenshots flooded social media, people tagging friends, influencers casually dropping my creation into their videos. My inbox, once a graveyard of rejections, turned into a storm. Investors, journalists, curious users all demanding more. I remember staring at my laptop in disbelief, the numbers climbing so fast it didn't feel real. My tiny apartment felt too small, like the walls couldn't contain the energy buzzing in my veins. The world was finally noticing me, but not everyone was cheering. My old friends, those who had mocked me, suddenly reappeared in my messages. "Hey bro, knew you'd make it. We should catch up soon." And then, late one night, the message I never expected. From her. My ex. At first, I thought it was spam. But no, it was her profile, her carefully curated life of expensive clothes and champagne smiles. "Congrats. I saw your app everywhere today. I always knew you had potential." Winky face. I laughed out loud, bitter and sharp. Always knew. She had called me pathetic, worthless, a failure. And now that strangers validated me, she pretended she believed all along? But I didn't reply. Not yet. Because while the buzz was intoxicating, I knew the truth. One viral moment doesn't build a company. It's a spark, but sparks die out if you don't feed the fire. So I threw myself into work harder than ever. Meetings with investors filled my days, coding marathons filled my nights. Sleep became optional. Coffee became oxygen. And through it all, her message sat unanswered. But she wasn't going away. In fact, she was about to come back into my life in a way that would test everything I'd built. It was late afternoon when I saw her again. 3 years since the night she stormed out, suitcase in hand. I was leaving a co-working space, my laptop bag heavy on my shoulder, when a familiar voice stopped me in my tracks. "Wow," she said softly, almost rehearsed. "You really did it." I turned, and there she was, dressed immaculately, makeup perfect, hair styled like she had stepped out of an ad. But her eyes, they weren't the sharp, mocking ones I remembered. They looked tired, desperate. "Did what?" I asked flatly, though I already knew. "Your company," she said, smiling a little too wide. "Everyone's talking about you. It's amazing." The words should have felt good. Once, I would have killed to hear her acknowledge me. But instead, I felt a cold detachment. "I thought I was pathetic," I said, letting the word hang between us like smoke. Her smile faltered. "I didn't mean it like that. You have to understand, I was scared. I thought you were wasting your life." "No," I cut her off. "You thought I was nothing, and you made sure I knew it." She flinched, but recovered quickly, slipping into the same manipulative charm I once fell for. "People change. I've changed. Maybe we could start over." There it was. The real reason she was here. Behind the polished exterior, I noticed cracks. The designer handbag looked worn, her ring finger was bare, her laugh lines etched deeper than they should have been. Whatever fantasy life she'd left me for, it had collapsed. I felt a surge of vindication, the kind I had dreamed about on nights when I ate cold ramen alone. But instead of gloating, I just stared at her, steady and silent, letting her squirm in the weight of her own words. She reached out, touching my arm lightly. "You're not still angry, are you? We had something good once. We could again." For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Daniel, my investor. Big news. "Call me ASAP." I stepped back, her hand falling away. "Whatever this is," I said quietly, "you're too late." Her face drained of color. And as I walked away, I knew Daniel's message would change everything, more than she, or I, could imagine. I ducked into the first quiet cafe I could find and called Daniel. My ex's perfume still clung faintly to my jacket, but I forced the memory of her touch out of my mind. I had bigger things to focus on. When Daniel answered, his voice was electric. "It happened," he said. "The numbers are exploding. You're not just viral, you're scaling. Major investors are circling. TechCrunch wants an interview. This is it." For a second, I couldn't breathe. I looked around the cafe, the hum of strangers sipping lattes and tapping on laptops suddenly fading into nothing. All I could hear was the pounding of my heartbeat. "This is it," I whispered. "This is the launch pad," Daniel replied. "But listen, we have to move fast. Competitors will come for you. Copycats will rise." I set up meetings with 2 major firms. "If we land them, you're funded for years. You'll be untouchable." I hung up the call in a daze, staring at my reflection in the cafe window. The same face she once called a failure, the same man everyone doubted, was now about to sit at tables with millionaires and CEOs. And then my phone buzzed again. A new message. From her. "Can we please talk? Just dinner. I owe you an apology." I almost laughed. The timing was too perfect. The same week my company was making headlines. The same day Daniel told me I was on the cusp of changing my life. She wanted back in. I didn't reply. Instead, I threw myself deeper into the work. Interviews. Investor pitches. Meetings that stretched long into the night. Every yes I heard chipped away at the memory of her cruel words. Every handshake, every headline reminded me that I wasn't nothing. I never had been. But ignoring her didn't make her disappear. In fact, the more visible I became, the harder she pushed. Flowers at my office. Notes left with the receptionist. Long, pleading emails where she painted herself as lost, broken, and misunderstood. I deleted them all, until one landed in my inbox with a subject line I couldn't ignore. "I made a mistake. Please hear me out." And attached was something I never expected. Her email sat at the top of my inbox like a landmine. I hovered over it for nearly an hour before finally clicking. The first line nearly knocked the air out of me. "I was wrong about you." She wrote about how she left because she thought I'd never change, how she was scared of wasting her best years on someone without ambition. She admitted she was cruel, admitted she had chased comfort over love. But then came the hook, the part that made my jaw clench. Attached was a photo of us, one I hadn't seen in years. Me in my tiny kitchen, hair messy, still in my work uniform, and her beside me, smiling like she actually believed in me. For a split second, I felt that old ache in my chest, that ghost of the man who used to need her approval. Her words were syrupy, carefully chosen. "You were my greatest mistake. I want to make it right. Please give me one more chance." I slammed my laptop shut. It was manipulative. It had to be. She didn't care about me. She cared about the man I had become, the headlines, the company name trending across platforms. Still, for one dangerous moment, I found myself wondering, what if? That night, I barely slept. Her words tangled with Daniel's. This is the launch pad. Success was within reach, but my past was clawing at my heels, trying to drag me back into the pit I had crawled out of. By morning, my decision was clear. I would meet her. Not to reconcile, not to forgive, but to look her in the eye and see what desperation really looked like. I texted her a single line. "Dinner. One night. That's all." Her reply came instantly, like she'd been waiting by the phone. "Thank you. You won't regret it." But as I stared at the glowing screen, a knot twisted in my stomach. Because I already did. We met at a sleek little restaurant downtown, the kind of place I never could have afforded back when we were together. She was already there when I arrived, sitting near the window with a glass of wine in hand. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. The woman who once sneered at my pathetic dreams now looked fragile, her smile stretched too thin, her eyes scanning the room like she was hunting for approval. Wow, she breathed when I sat down. You look different. Success will do that, I said flatly. She laughed, a sound that once made me weak but now grated against my nerves. I deserve that. I know what I said to you was unforgivable. I was cruel. I was selfish. But I've had time to think, and I miss us. The waiter appeared, and she ordered something extravagant without hesitation, like old habits never died. I stuck with water. As she talked, I listened. She spun a story of regret and bad luck. Her new relationship had collapsed. The man she chose over me turned out to be unfaithful. Her perfect life was nothing but a hollow lie. She painted herself as a victim of circumstance, someone who had made a mistake and just wanted to come home. But I wasn't the same man who once hung on her every word. I watched the way she leaned in when I mentioned the company, how her eyes lit up when I talked about investors. She didn't want me. She wanted the success attached to me. Do you know how proud I am of you? She said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I always knew you were special. The exact opposite of what she'd told me the night she walked out. My jaw clenched. Funny, I said. I remember you saying I'd never be anything. Her face paled, but she recovered quickly. I didn't mean it. I was scared. I was wrong. But look at us now. This could be our second chance. I leaned back, pulling my hand away. For a moment, I thought about all those nights alone in the dark, choking down her words like poison. And now here she was, serving me the same lines dressed up as apologies. Then my phone buzzed on the table. A headline notification lit up the screen. My company just closed a multi-million-dollar deal. Her eyes flicked to it, wide with hunger. And in that moment, I knew exactly what game she was playing. The glow from my phone screen lingered on the table, the headline as sharp as a blade. Startup secures multi-million-dollar funding. Her eyes locked onto it, pupils dilating, lips parting like she'd just witnessed salvation itself. The mask of calm cracked, and I saw desperation claw its way to the surface. You did it, she whispered, almost reverent. I knew you would. I always believed in you. I let out a short laugh, sharp enough to cut through her lie. Believed in me? The last thing you said before walking out was that I'd never be anything. She flinched, but instead of denying it, her face crumpled. The confident, polished woman across from me melted into someone smaller, weaker. Her voice shook. I was wrong. I was stupid. Please, just give me another chance. We were good together once, weren't we? I miss that. I miss you. Her hand reached across the table again, trembling now. Not with passion, but with panic. For the first time, she wasn't in control. And for the first time, I was. I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. No, you don't miss me. You miss the man you thought would never exist. You miss the comfort of standing next to someone successful. But you threw away the man who built all this. You don't get to walk back into my life now that it's shining. Her eyes filled with tears, whether real or staged, I couldn't tell. She shook her head, her voice breaking. Please, I have nothing. I thought he'd give me the world, but he left me with nothing. You're all I have left. For years, I had dreamed of this exact moment. Her begging, me standing tall. I thought I'd feel vindicated, triumphant. And I did, a little. But mostly, I felt free. I stood, tossing some bills onto the table. That's not my problem anymore. Her voice cracked behind me as I walked away. Don't do this. You'll regret it. You need me. But the truth was clear, brighter than the city lights outside. I never needed her. And now, she finally knew it too. The next morning, my face was everywhere. Tech blogs ran features on the overnight success story. Local news outlets called me the hometown hero. Even national sites picked up the headline. Startup founder disrupts industry with viral app. My inbox was chaos. Partnership requests, speaking invitations, interviews. I barely had time to breathe between back-to-back meetings with investors who, months ago, wouldn't even return my calls. But success is loud, and it doesn't just attract fans. It attracts shadows. While my team celebrated the funding, I noticed messages piling up on my phone. Unknown numbers. Blocked accounts. Each one more frantic than the last. Please, just talk to me. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. Don't shut me out. I need you. I ignored them. At first. Then the letters started arriving, slipped under my office door, left in my mailbox at home. Handwritten, messy, pages filled with pleas and half-apologies. She wrote about how she couldn't sleep, how she saw us everywhere in my interviews, how she still loved the real me. The real me? The one she abandoned? Daniel noticed the tension in my jaw one evening after a long day of calls. "You okay?" he asked, sliding me a coffee. "Yeah, I lied. Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was haunted. Haunted by the ghost of someone who had once defined my worth, now desperate to claw her way back into a life she didn't belong to anymore. Every message, every letter, every desperate attempt threatened to pull me back into the pit I had fought so hard to escape. One night, after an event where I spoke on stage about resilience and chasing dreams, I stepped outside to find her waiting in the shadows. "Congratulations," she said softly, her eyes red, her makeup streaked. "I watched you in there. Everyone loves you now, but I loved you first." Her voice cracked. "Please, don't leave me behind." And for the first time, I realized she wasn't just a ghost from my past. She was turning into an anchor, trying to drag me down even as I finally learned how to fly. I had spent weeks dodging her shadows, deleting messages, tossing letters, ignoring her presence at the edges of my life. But there comes a point when silence feeds obsession, and I realized she wouldn't stop until I made her. The chance came sooner than I expected. One evening, I was speaking at a local business summit. The room was packed with young entrepreneurs, reporters scribbling notes, cameras flashing. I talked about failure, about resilience, about how the darkest nights can spark the brightest breakthroughs. The applause was still echoing when I spotted her. Front row. She wasn't dressed like before, no designer outfit, no polished mask. Just jeans, a wrinkled blouse, and eyes swollen from crying. She looked small, almost unrecognizable. But when I stepped off stage, she stood up and rushed toward me. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling loud enough for the microphones to catch. "I made a mistake. I threw away the best thing in my life. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame. I just want you back." The room froze. Cameras clicked like gunfire. I felt hundreds of eyes burning into me, waiting for my response. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of her words. I took a deep breath and met her gaze. "You want the truth?" My voice carried across the hushed auditorium. "The night you walked out, you told me I was nothing. And for a long time, I believed you. But you were wrong. I'm not nothing. I never was. And I'll never let anyone make me feel that way again." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Her face crumpled, tears spilling as she whispered, "Please, don't do this here." But I didn't look away. This isn't about here. This is about me finally saying what I should have said years ago. You don't get another chance to break me. Applause erupted, louder than any I'd heard all night. She staggered back, humiliated, before slipping out of the room under the blinding flashes of cameras. And just like that, the ghost lost its grip. But I knew this wasn't the end of the story, because walking away from her was one victory. Proving to myself that I was truly free, that was still to come. For days after the summit, headlines buzzed, not just about my company, but about that moment. Clips of me shutting her down spread online, shared with captions like, "This is what success looks like," and "the ultimate glow-up revenge." Strangers messaged me, cheering me on. Old acquaintances from school and work suddenly reached out, calling me an inspiration. Even my inbox, once a graveyard of rejections, now overflowed with speaking invites and partnership offers. But none of it compared to the silence inside me. For the first time in years, her voice, the one that haunted me through ramen dinners and sleepless nights, was gone. No more whispers of pathetic, no more echoes of "you'll never be anything." The weight I'd carried since that night she left had finally fallen away. And yet, in the quiet that followed, another question gnawed at me. If I wasn't defined by her rejection anymore, then who was I? I walked through the city one night, hoodie pulled tight, watching my company's name flash on billboards, my face appear in articles glowing from cafe windows. It felt surreal, but also strangely empty. Success had been my weapon, my revenge, my answer to every cruel word she ever threw at me. Now that she was gone, was this still about me, or about her? I found myself standing outside the same dingy apartment where it all began. The cracked window, the peeling paint, the ghosts of late nights coding in the dark. I remembered the version of me who sat there hungry, broke, humiliated, but burning with a promise. One day, she'll regret this. And she had. The whole world had seen it. But as I stood there, I realized the revenge was complete. What came next had to be more than proving her wrong. It had to be about proving myself right. I whispered to the empty street, "This isn't for you anymore. This is for me." And for the first time, success didn't feel like a shield. It felt like freedom. But freedom is only the beginning. Because what you do with it determines everything. With the past finally behind me, I threw myself into the future. The company wasn't just surviving anymore. It was exploding. New users every day, investors calling nonstop, journalists begging for interviews. My calendar became a battlefield of opportunities. But with growth came pressure. We moved from my tiny apartment setup into a real office space, a glass building downtown with our logo proudly mounted on the wall. Walking through those doors the first time, seeing a dozen people typing away at desks I'd hired and paid for, felt surreal. I was no longer a dreamer hunched over ramen and a flickering laptop. I was a CEO. Still, the higher we climbed, the sharper the winds. Competitors started circling, releasing knockoff versions of my app. Investors who had once praised me now demanded results faster, bigger, louder. Every interview ended with the same question: how will you keep this momentum? The pressure gnawed at me. I found myself working 18-hour days again, this time not out of desperation, but out of fear. Fear of losing it all now that I finally had it. One evening, Daniel pulled me aside after a long board meeting. "You've done incredible things," he said, his tone steady. "But don't burn yourself out proving you deserve it. You've already proved it. Now it's about leading." His words hit me hard. For years, my only fuel had been revenge. The need to prove her wrong. But now that I'd won that war, I had to learn to build something not from anger, but from vision. That night, staring out of my office window at the city lights, I realized the truth. I wasn't just building a company. I was building an empire. One that could outlast me. One that could inspire every other failure who'd been told they were nothing. But as the thought settled, a knock came at my office door. My assistant stepped in, looking uneasy. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "She won't leave." My chest tightened instantly. It was her. Again. She stood in the lobby, smaller than I'd ever seen her. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup, no confident smirk. Just a plain coat, worn shoes, and eyes that carried the weight of someone who had been broken down to nothing. When she saw me, she tried to smile, but it flickered and died. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Against my better judgment, I led her into a quiet conference room. She sat across from me, clutching her bag like it was all she had left in the world. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, finally, the words spilled out. "I lost everything," she whispered. "The man I left you for. He cheated, drained me, walked away. The people I thought were friends gone. And then I saw you. Your success, your company, your name everywhere. And all I could think was, that should have been me by your side." Her hands shook as she pulled a crumpled letter from her bag. She slid it across the table. "I don't want your money. I don't want your fame. I just want you to forgive me. I can't sleep. I can't breathe knowing how badly I hurt you." I stared at the letter but didn't touch it. For years, I had dreamed of this. Her begging, her admitting she was wrong. But sitting there, all I felt was nothing. "You want forgiveness?" I said slowly. "You don't need me for that. You need yourself. But don't come here thinking you'll find it in me." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "Please, I'm begging you." I stood, pushing the letter back toward her. "You begged once before, but that time, it was for me to believe I was worthless. Now you're begging for me to believe you're sorry. Either way, the answer is the same." "No," she broke then, sobbing quietly into her hands, her shoulders shaking. I walked to the door, pausing only once to look back. "This company, this life, I built it from the ashes you left me in. You don't get to walk through the fire now that it's warm." I left her there, a ghost of the woman who once tried to bury me. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger or triumph. I felt free. But as I walked back to my office, I realized there was still one last chapter to write. The chapter where I finally defined success on my own terms. The night after that final meeting with her, I stayed late in the office long after everyone else had gone home. The city below buzzed with neon lights and traffic, but inside, it was just me, the quiet hum of the servers, and the weight of everything I'd been through. I thought about the boy she had left behind, the one who ate ramen in the dark, convinced he'd never matter. I thought about the man she'd begged for in that conference room, desperate and hollow. And then I thought about who I was right now. For years, success had meant one thing: proving her wrong. Every sleepless night, every rejection I fought through, every headline with my name on it. It was all sharpened into a weapon aimed at her memory. But sitting there, I realized I didn't need that anymore. I wasn't chasing revenge. I wasn't running from her words. I had already won. Success wasn't the money in the bank or the investors on my side. It wasn't the articles calling me a visionary or the stages I stood on with cameras flashing. Success was walking away from the poison of my past and still standing tall. It was freedom. It was peace. It was finally believing that I had been enough all along. I walked out onto the balcony, the cool night air brushing against my face. Below, the city pulsed with life, and I felt something I hadn't in years: calm. Not the anxious calm before a storm, but the real kind. The kind you earn when you've fought through fire and come out clean. She was gone. The chains were gone. And for the first time, the future wasn't about her. It was about me. I whispered into the night. Not for her, not even for the world, but for the version of me who once believed he was nothing. You made it. And with that, I stepped back inside, ready to build. Not from spite, not from pain, but from strength. Because the sweetest revenge wasn't making her beg. It was realizing I never needed her to begin with.